is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
In today's headlines, amid ongoing tensions in the West Philippine Sea, a local chief executive in the Philippines calls for cooler heads and bilateral negotiations. With setbacks in talks between China and the Philippines and President Marcos leaning towards U.S. power, the Varian politician urges world leaders to seek a middle ground for resolution. Meanwhile, as time passes, more barangays are being affected by Mount Kanlaon's increasing activity. Currently, the Philippine Army is closely monitoring the terrorist group New People's Army in Negros, ensuring the safety and security of the region. For our top global stories, U.S. officials are on high alert as a fleet of Russian warships edges closer to the Caribbean for anticipated military exercises. Also tonight, in a provocative move, Iran-backed Houthi rebels launched a ballistic missile named after Palestine, adding fuel to the fire of regional tensions. And a grandmother's dream vacation to Australia turned into a harrowing nightmare after she contracted a flesh-eating disease, leaving her and her family in shock and disbelief. I'm Frederico Velloso. Newsline World starts now. First in the news, the amount of illegal drugs recently seized in Batangas has decreased again. PRO Calabarzon reports that it is now only 1.4 tons found out. Why? Let us find out with Omar Fosuelo report.
On April 15, 2024, authorities reported the interception of illegal drugs at a checkpoint in Barangay Pinagcrusan, Alitagtag, Batangas. The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency or PDEA announced that the seized illegal drugs found in a van weighed nearly 2 tons and were estimated to be worth over 13 billion pesos. This news was controversial and received various reactions from Filipinos, with some expressing disbelief after President Bongbong Marcos reported it. As the investigation progressed, the Philippine National Police or PNP released the official count of the seized drugs. According to the police, the quantity decreased from nearly 2 tons to 1.4 tons, equivalent to over 9 billion pesos in value. As a result, more netizens doubted what was considered the largest drug haul in the country. But it did not end there, as the amount further decreased from 1.4 tons of shabu to now only 1.2 tons. In a media interview, Police Brigadier General Paul Kenneth Lucas, Regional Director of PRO Calabarzon, explained that the reduction was due to the inclusion of packaging in the initial inventory.
Well, nung nagkaroon tayo ng inventory dyan sa Alitagtag, kasama yung packaging, no? Kasama yung container nung kinikilo natin itong mga drugs na nahuli natin sa Alitagtag. Of course, pag nung na-turn over natin sa PDEA, no, nung tinanggal na nila yung packaging, yung kung saan inilagay yung meth, is yun yung lumabas na kilo nung na-confiscate na shabu.
The official made this statement following PDEA's destruction over 9 billion pesos worth of illegal drugs at an integrated waste management facility in Barangay Aguado, 13 Martires City, Cavite on Thursday. Among the items destroyed was over a ton of shabu seized at a checkpoint in Alitagtag, Batangas last April. Assistant Secretary Renato Gumban, Deputy Director General for Operations of PDEA, explained that around 200 kilos of packaging material were used to wrap the drugs.
Yung doon, yung nandun ako nung tinatanggal yung packaging sa laboratory service. Ang packaging niya kasi may nakabalot sa una sa plastic. Binalot pa ulit ng isang plastic na makapal at pinasok pa sa plastic container. Tinanggal namin yung laman doon at anyway, more or less 300 grams yung isang packaging lang. Kaya overall, yung bawas doon is about mga 200 kilos, 1.4 to 1.2 more or less. I said more or less, I'm not very accurate on that. Ganon kakapal yung ginamit kasi at ganon kabigat yung ginamit na packaging.
Authorities are still investigating the issue. So far, only 2 suspects have been arrested in connection with this case. The van driver, identified as Aljon Michael Sarate, a former U.S. soldier, and a Canadian national, identified as Thomas Gordon O'Keene. For God and my beloved Philippines, Almar Forzuelo, SMNI News.
As time passes, more barangays are being affected by Mount Kanlaon's activity. Currently, the Philippine Army is monitoring the terrorist group No People's Army in Negros. Almar Forzuelo is back for more news.
The number of individuals and areas affected by the eruption of Mount Kanlaon continues to increase. According to the latest data from the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, or NDRRMC, as of 9 a.m. on Friday, June 7, over 7,000 families or more than 25,000 individuals have been affected by the eruption of Mount Kanlaon on Negros Island. While the affected areas remain in 2 regions, 2 provinces and 6 cities or municipalities, the number of affected barangays has increased to 23. Currently, aid continues to be provided to affected families, with various government agencies working together to assist residents. According to Colonel Louis Di Maala, spokesperson for the Philippine Army, they continue to monitor and conduct rescue operations in the province of Negros.
Tuloy-tuloy yung ating monitoring at yung rescue operations doon sa Negros province, no? Katuwang natin dito yung 3rd Infantry Division, particularly yung mga infantry battalions na nadodoon mismo kasama ng mga LGUs natin at other national agencies sa pag-address nitong calamity.
Colonel De Maala stated that they are also monitoring the movements of the communist terrorist group CPP-NPA in the area. The official explained that they are considering the possibility that the leftist group might use the situation to create chaos and fear among the public.
Yung ating responders doon sa calamity, kumbaga hindi naman ito lahat ng mga kasundaluhan natin is involved doon. Meron pa rin tayong mga tropa na naka-ready for to secure yung peace and order. Para at least hindi pa rin tayo mag-lesen ng security dahil binabantayan din natin itong mga kalaban natin, itong mga kakalubang grupo na sakaling i-take advantage nga nila itong ginagawa nating disaster response. So kumbaga naka-alerto pa rin yung ating mga kasundaluhan.
For God and my beloved Philippines, Almar Forzuelo, SMNI News.
Meanwhile, students are on vacation from their school and the whole family wants to take a trip together to their dream destination. Perfect. Some of the airlines are offering cheap fares with the commemoration of the Independence Day this June. Bao de Vinagracia has the story.
Friends and family will surely enjoy their sightseeing more now that there is another piece of sale offered by some airlines. This is what they offer to their loyal customers as part of commemorating Independence Day this June. From June 8 to 16, 2024, guests can book flights from Manila, Clark, and Cebu to selected AirAsia domestic destinations for only 1 peso one-way base fare. In the same manner, flights from Manila to 11 international destinations can also be purchased from 1 peso to 2,811 pesos one-way base fare for travels from September 2, 2024 to October 8, 2025. AirAsia First Officer and Spokesperson Steve Daylisan said that there are more than 1 million seats waiting for anyone who can avail of the peso sale.
1.6 million seats. Kung hindi ka pa ba naman makahanap ng isang seat na magdadala sa'yo sa iyong dream destination, kailangan mo talagang bilisan kasi magsa-start yung ating piso sale simula bukas, June 8. So, days before Independence Day.
The seat sale offered by AirAsia aims to help anyone who dreams of vacationing in the places they want to go at a very low cost.
Gusto namin na magkaroon ng freedom to travel yung mga kababayan natin. Alam natin na marami sa mga kababayan natin pangarap talaga na makapunta dun sa kanilang dream destination. Alam niyo naman ang mission po ng AirAsia. It has always been about making that dream happen.
Cebu Pacific first announced the launch of Manila-Kaohsiung flights with piso sale starting May 30 that will end until June 13. From May 30 to June 13, sub-travelers may book flights to Kaohsiung for as low as 1 peso one-way base fare, exclusive of fees and surcharges. The travel period is from August 16 to October 25, 2024. Starting August 16, 2024, subs Manila Kaohsiung flights will also operate 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Meanwhile, Philippine Airlines is also offering cheap fares this Independence Day. The seat sale for Independence Day was started in June 3, 2024 until June 16, 2024. For domestic travel, grab a chance to get special one-way regular economy base fares at a low price of 208 pesos for selected domestic flights. While the travel period is from September 1, 2024 to January 31, 2025 on selected routes such as Manila to Busuanga, Puerto Princesa, Antique, Bacolod, Catarman, Calbayog, Cebu, Calibo, Rojas, Tacloban, Tagbilaran, Davao, Siargao, and vice versa. And also Cebu to Clark, Puerto Princesa, Davao, Siargao, and vice versa. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, this is Valdivina Gracia. SMNI News.
In the meantime, the Philippine State Weather Bureau has declared the official end of the El Niño phenomenon in the country. Currently, the government is preparing for the impending onset of La Niña, especially its potential effects on the agriculture sector. Creseline Catarong has the report.
The impact of El Niño has significantly weakened in recent weeks. The weak El Niño was first identified in May, and its effects have continued to diminish until the current month. As a result, the DOST Pag-asa released its final advisory on El Niño on June 7, declaring the end of the El Niño phenomenon in the country.
Pinagbabasihan po ng DOST Pag-asa ay yung pong tinatawag nating mga indicators or yung monitoring. Yan po dun sa Dagat Pasipiko, yung pag-init at paglamig ng temperatura ng dagat. So sa ngayon po ay ENSO, neutral condition na po. Ibig sabihin po, hindi na po ganun kainit yung temperatura ng dagat kaysa karaniwan. So back to average or normal na po.
Annalisa Solis, the Climate Monitoring and Prediction Section Chief of DOST Pag-asa, however, mentioned that some areas in the country still experience high temperatures or elevated heat index.
Pero kung ikukumpara po natin dun sa mga nakaraang mga araw or weeks po, mas kumokonte yung mga lugar na matataas ang heat index. So still, naglalaro pa rin po sa mga around 41, 42, 43, yung may mga lugar po na matataas ang alinsangan.
Concurrently, the government is also preparing for the anticipated impact of La Niña in various sectors. Based on the Weather Bureau's advisory, there is a 69% chance of La Niña being declared by July, August, September. It is worth noting that Pag-asa also recently declared the official start of the rainy season in the country. Meanwhile, the Department of Agriculture shared their latest data regarding the impact of El Niño, where damages amounting to 9.6 billion pesos were recorded in the agriculture sector, with most of it affecting rice fields. And now that El Niño has completely ended and the rainy season has begun, according to DA spokesperson Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa, areas previously lacking water have no positive signs for crop growth.
Naulan na at sigurado na tayo na kapagtanim na rin yung iba dahil tamang-tama ito yung panahon ng land preparation hanggang June, July para yung ating harvest ay maisagawa mula August, September hanggang October nitong taon na to para sa wet season planting.
However, according to the MESA, the DA is also preparing for the potential impact of La Niña as it brings water-related problems, but in excess water, an opposite of El Niño effects. Therefore, the officials stressed the need to improve water management interventions, including main and lateral canals in irrigation systems.
Dual purpose yan. Yan ay daluyan ng tubig papunta sa mga bukirin para ma-irrigate yung lupa natin. At pag sobra na yung tubig, yan din ay daluyan palabas o yung drainage system. So, kailangan masigurado na maayos itong mga sistema na ito para pag dumating yung La Niña ay masigurado natin na yung mga excess water ay may lalabas.
Moreover, he said water impounding projects are ongoing to capture excess rainwater for use when needed. DOST Pag-asa has stated that the country is under La Nina watch and have not yet entered the formal La Nina phase. Despite this, early preparation is still preferable.
Pero ito po yung inaasahan natin na early preparation natin, hindi lang po ng buong gobyerno, kundi lang lahat po ng ating kababayan dahil kailangan po sama-sama tulong-tulong po tayo dito. At least malesen natin yung impacts kung sakali darating ang La Nina as well as ito pong panahon ng ating tag-ulan. So ingat lang po tayong palagi.
For God and for my beloved Philippines, this has been Cresceline Catarong, SMNI News.
Meanwhile, senior Thai officials, including the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister, did not meet the United Nations Human Rights Chief during his two-day visit to the Southeast Asian country. Chat Mongon Pisamagazon reports.
Instead of a red carpet, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk found himself ignored by high-ranking Thailand officials during his recent trip to the so-called Land of Smiles. Thailand's Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, and other senior government officials sidestepped a meeting with the UN Human Rights Chief during his recent visit to Bangkok. Turk visited Thailand from June 5th to 6th. The UN official was greeted instead by the Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs as well as the Thai and regional civil society. The two-day diplomatic tour was downgraded to a mere stopover. Turk traveled to Laos after his two-day trip to Bangkok. The UN agency has been critical of Thailand's strict lèse majesté law, which criminalizes defamation, insult, or threats against the centuries-old monarchy of Thailand. The measure covers the king, queen, heir apparent, heir presumptive, or regent. Last month, 28-year-old activist Nedipon Bungsane Sangkom died of cardiac arrest after spending 65 days on a partial hunger strike. She was facing 7 charges, including 2 under the lèse majesté provision. Political tensions in Thailand are becoming more evident, with both the current and former prime ministers of the country facing separate charges filed by opposition lawmakers. Reporting from Thailand, I'm Shatmongkon Pisamaikoson, your Global Citizens correspondent for SMNI News Channel.
Up next, in a provocative move, Iran-backed Houthi rebels launched a ballistic missile named after Palestine, adding fuel to the fire of regional tensions. And a grandmother's dream vacation to Australia turned into a harrowing nightmare after she contracted flesh-eating disease, leaving her and her family in shock and disbelief. Newsline World will be back after the break.
Abangan ng Banateros tuwing Lunes hanggang Huwebes, live dito lang sa SMNI.
Yan ang Banateros, walang inuurungan. Pag tama palakpakan, pag mali ay babanatan. Yan ang Banateros.
Kung akong tatanungin, kahit saang aspeto, gusto ko garantisado. Metikuloso akong tao, kaya gusto ko lahat maayos at sigurado. Lahat quality, yung hindi ako makukompromiso pero sulit ang presyo. Ganyan ang clean fuel, kaya dito panatag ang loob ko.
Magandang umaga po, sir. Full tank po.
Full tank. Gusto mo ng dekalidad na gasolina pero sulit ang halaga, mag-clean fuel ka.
Magandang umaga Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Maayong buntag mga kapartner. Magandang araw sa buong mundo.
Magandang araw Pilipinas. Ito ang Pulso ng Bayan.
Hihimayin ang mga pangunahing issue sa ating bayan. Susuriin ang mga kinakailangang malaman ng taong bayan. Aalamin ang pulso ng bawat Pilipino sa mga pangyayari sa ating lipunan. Pulso ng Bayan, alas 7 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga, tuwing Lunes hanggang Biyernes. Kasama ang spokes ng Bayan, Attorney Harry Roque, Admar Vilado at Jade Calabroso. Dito lang sa SMNI.
Children will grow up and bring the joy, the love, the peace, and compassion to the whole world. We only have one planet. We only have one Earth. And I hope that this new generation of children that we have reached out will become millions and billions and bring peace on Earth. Bring peace to humanity. Ang buot sa Diyos, kitang mga katawhan, tunay espiritong mupadayon o muantos. Kay nakitan sa Diyos sa unahan, basta mahimo ka ng anak sa Ginoo sa gingharian, daghan ang mga pagsulay. Kung way pagantos, di ka makalahutay. Kung walay pagkamakanunayon, dili gyapon ka makalahutay. Ang tuyo sa Diyos, nga ang matagos nga gitawag, makalahutay. Makalahutay lamang sa mga pagsulay kundili sa pagtubo nga makaabot siya sa ikaupat nga laka nga dito na manukad ang iyang reward.
There are so many who question me, why are you called the appointed Son of God? Isn't there only one Son of God? Don't you know that all of you are sons of God? Children of God, all of you. Children of God, sons and daughters of the Father Almighty. When the devil came and took over, we became children of the devil without us knowing it. That's why he sent his son there in the Middle East. His name is Jesus Christ, to be crucified on the cross so that you and I will become like him. I am from a Gentile nation. You are from a Gentile nation. My father and mother are pure human beings. He saved me first so that he could save you through me. He is looking for a body where he can dwell here on this earth that is not religious, that cannot be used by religion alone. He alone can use that body. And I told him when he called me, Father, I'm here. Use me. And I came here. and the Father is using me. I am not being used by religion. I'm not being used by denomination. I'm being used by the Father Almighty, and He sent me here to tell you that this is now the time for you to become sons and daughters of God, just like me.
Sabi nga nila, di ba? You will know them by their love. Yun ang sinabi sa Biblia. It's not on how good you are in quoting the scripture. It's giving love.
Grabe, hindi talaga hindi talaga kasya yung words eh. Kung paano natin i-express yung ating na-experience.
Mismo wala akong masabi. Kita ko kasi yung pagiging generous. Alam mo, madali kasi magsalita ng Diyos eh. Pero pagdating sa pera, pagdating sa pagiging generous, yung pagtulong sa iba, hindi biro yun. Maraming bagsak dyan. Maraming bagsak. Kaya ako nakikita ko yung pagiging generous niya. Hindi sa salita eh. Sa lakad. Bilib ako. Hindi dakda. Nakita mo sa gawa. In one word, authentic.
Abangan ng Banateros tuwing Lunes hanggang Huwebes, live dito lang sa SMNI.
Yan ang Banateros, walang inuurungan. Pag tama palakpakan, pag mali ay babanatan.
Magandang umaga Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Maayong buntag mga kapartner. Magandang araw sa buong mundo.
Magandang araw, Pilipinas! Ito ang Pulso ng Bayan.
Hihimayin ang mga pangunahing issue sa ating bayan. Susuriin ang mga kinakailangang malaman ng taong bayan. Aalamin ang pulso ng bawat Pilipino sa mga pangyayari sa ating lipunan. Pulso ng Bayan, alas 7 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga, tuwing Lunes hanggang Biyernes. Kasama ang spokes ng Bayan, Attorney Harry Roque, Admar Vilado at Jade Calabroso. Dito lang sa SMNI.
Kanang inyong mga cellphone, pagbantay mo sa inyong mga isultihan na mo sa una. Pornography is a spiritual adultery. Kanang pornography, labaw pa na sa shabu. Magdaot imong uto ka na, labi na kung ikaw niya kasaking na ministry, pahingon taglangit, mo na imong kalaban. Because it will destroy everything that was implanted to you spiritually that will let you go to heaven. Pornography is the number one missile of the enemy that will destroy you and your soul to hell. Ayaw jud mo pagtanaw pornography, babae lalaki sa inyo. What is dangerous now with cell phones? You can go into the privacy of your room and look at your cell phone without anyone. Only God knows what are you looking at. And mostly, people go to the dark side of the door going to destruction to hell. And that is pornography. It destroys the mind. It destroys the soul. It destroys your spirit.
Back in the news, the National Food Authority, NFA, is expediting the purchase of rice from local farmers in light of the looming threat of La Nina. However, the question remains whether the agency can meet the national rice buffer stock requirement needed during calamities or emergencies. Let's find out more with this report by Sheena Turno.
Despite the hot weather,
Farmers like Elmer in San Miguel, Bulacan continue to plant rice. However, the rains have slowed down their planting process.
Pagka malalim na ganyan, mahirap pong magtanim. Matagal magkuhan kasi malalim ng tubig, lumulutang.
It typically takes them 4 hours to plant, but due to high water levels, it now takes 6 to 7 hours. Angelo has not yet harvested his hectares of rice in San Ildefonso, Bulacan, even though May is usually the end of the harvesting season. He decided to delay the harvest to find a good buyer offering a reasonable price. He plans to sell his harvested rice to the National Food Authority or NFA.
Sa NFA ko kasi kung pasat may itinalagang presyo, sabihin, permis na yun ang presyo ng NFA.
We also encountered Arnie Magat, a farmer in San Miguel, Bulacan. He was selling 280 bags of rice to the National Food Authority warehouse because he can earn more compared to traders who manipulate prices or offer lower rates.
Kumita naman. Pero? Saktuhan lang. Hindi, compare mo dati, puro lugi. Ngayon, kumikita.
NFA Administrator Larry Lacson personally inspected the rice purchases in Bulacan.
Pagkatapos mabili ng NFA ang mga basang palay mula sa mga lokal na mga magsasaka, agad itong dadalhin sa mga drying facility katulad na lamang nito na nasa aking likuran. Kailangan kasing maabot yung 14% moisture content o tuyong-tuyong palay, tsaka ito dadalhin sa mga bodega ng NFA para gilingin at maging bigas.
Currently, the NFA has purchased 3.29 million sacks of rice from farmers stored in warehouses. This represents 99% of the agency's target of 3.3 million sacks for the first half of 2024, equivalent to 136,000 metric tons of rice, or nearly 4 days of consumption. However, this is still short of the 9-day national rice buffer stock requirement during calamities or emergencies.
Hindi naman tayo sinasalantaan ng bagyo na buong Pilipinas, no? Sapat na sapat po yan, no? And it's still increasing. Hindi siya nakakabahala. Dahil kita naman natin may mga stocks ang private entities, stocks sa household. Umani naman tayo ng maganda. Hindi tayo magde-deficit pero we will not be hitting our target.
With expected harvest still coming, the target is to buy an additional 72,000 bags of rice to make up for the shortfall.
That's roughly another more than 2 million kilos of rice. So, kung bibigyan namin si DSWD ng lahat ng pangangailangan nila and at the same time, maraming LGUs na nagre-request itong nakalipas na mga state of calamities na dineclare nila for El Nino, malaking bagay din yung 2 million.
The NFA assures continues to rice purchasing amid farmers' concerns over dropping rice prices. This comes after President Bongbong Marcos approved a tariff cut on imported rice.
Kawawa po ang mga magsasaka. Siyempre po ma'am, yun ay kinabubuhay namin dito sa bukid. Maging mga magsasaka po, tatama rin na rin siguro.
Walang kinalaman yung pagbaba ng tariff ng imported rice doon sa buying price ni NFA. Kahit ibaba nila sa zero yan, we will buy at the price na makakatulong at
The NFA has raised the procurement price of dry rice to 23 pesos to 30 pesos per kilogram, from 19 pesos to 23 pesos per kilo. For fresh rice, the price is now 17 pesos to 23 pesos per kilogram, up from 16 pesos to 19 pesos per kilogram. For God and for my beloved Philippines, this has been Sheena Torno, SMRI News.
Meanwhile, Iran-backed Houthi rebels launched a ballistic missile that was named after Palestine. Katro Mori files this report.
The Houthis showed off their military might in the wake of the ongoing tensions in Gaza, with the crisis reverberating in the Red Sea and the rest of the region. The rebels fired a ballistic missile from the arsenal named Palestine. The missile was fired at the southern Gulf of Aqaba port of Eilat in Israel earlier this week. Solid fuel missiles like Palestine can be set up and fired faster than those containing liquid fuel. The Houthis escalated their attacks in the Red Sea since the Israel-Hamas war erupted in October of last year. The rebels vowed to target vessels routed or linked to Israel. The attacks are an expression of support for the Palestinians in Gaza. The United States has repeatedly accused Iran of supporting the Houthis with weapons, given that Yemen is one of the poorest countries in the Arab world. Reporting from Dubai, I'm Gatero Omor, your Global Citizen correspondent for SMNA News Channel.
In the meantime, Iran warned of consequences after the board of members of the United Nations nuclear watchdog passed a resolution that criticized the Islamic Republic's lack of cooperation with nuclear inspectors. Let's hear this report from Melchizedek Cadiz.
The United States and its European allies joined forces in voting in favor of a resolution to pressure Iran into stepping up into cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency or IAEA concerning its nuclear activities. Board members of the International Atomic Energy Agency passed a resolution earlier this week to condemn Iran's lack of cooperation with nuclear inspectors from the UN agency. The measure was initiated by Britain, France, and Germany, collectively known as the Troika or E3. The three European nations submitted the resolution to the agency's 35-member board during its quarterly meeting on Monday and held the vote on Wednesday. 20 member states voted in favor of the resolution. Russia and China voted against it, while 12 other nations abstained. Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Nasser Kanani slammed the censure resolution as a political maneuver by some Western states and an abuse of international mechanisms against independent states. Additionally, Iran's ambassador and permanent representative to international organizations in Vienna, Mohsen Nasiri, said France, Britain, and Germany should be held responsible for the measure's negative consequences on the positive atmosphere required for the Islamic Republic's positive interaction with the nuclear watchdog. Iran's state TV called the move hasty and unwise. Before the voting, several countries warned that the adoption of the anti-Iran resolution is a miscalculation that poses negative consequences, hence avoiding voting to show their disapproval of politicizing safeguarding issues. The nuclear watchdog issued the resolution amid fears by Western powers of Iran's escalating nuclear activities and the possibility of developing a nuclear weapon, an accusation Iran has denied. Inspectors claimed 2 sites near the capital Tehran showed traces of uranium, while the Islamic Republic insists its program is peaceful. This is the first time the nuclear watchdog voted to censure Iran since November 2022. Reporting from Kuwait, I am Melchizedek Cadiz, your Global Citizen correspondent for God and for our beloved country, the Philippines.
Russian President Vladimir Putin praised South Korea for not supplying weapons to Ukraine and stated Moscow is ready to restore ties with Seoul. Kim Sang reports.
Russian President Vladimir Putin gave the signal his country is ready to restore ties with South Korea after commending the East Asian country. Is South Korea ready to restore ties with Russia? Russian President Vladimir Putin said he highly appreciates South Korea's position not to directly supply weapons to Ukraine. Putin noted he does not see any Russophobic stance when working with the South Korean government. He also expressed interest in restoring ties with the East Asian nation. Ties between Russia and South Korea soured since Seoul joined an initiative led by the U.S. to impose sanctions against Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. Putin made the remark on the sidelines of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. The Russian leader said he is aware that the United States is attempting to persuade South Korea to look for weapons to send to Ukraine, adding that he is monitoring the situation closely. Putin likewise reaffirmed strengthening ties with North Korea, as diplomatic ties between the two nations deepened since their bilateral summit in September of last year. Reporting from South Korea, this is Kim Sung, your Global Citizen correspondent for God in our beloved country, the Philippines.
A grandmother who traveled from overseas to see her daughter and grandchildren suffered an unimaginable nightmare after getting infected with a flesh-eating disease while vacationing in Australia. Trisha Molina tells us more.
An extended trip to spend more time with our loved ones turned a very dark turn after 74-year-old Carmel Rodrigo contracted a life-threatening disease that is causing a stir in Australia. She traveled to Melbourne from Sri Lanka at the start of the year to see her daughter and grandchildren when she suddenly experienced a high fever and screamed in so much pain in the middle of the night a few weeks ago. Her daughter rushed her to the hospital, where doctors warned the patient has a 10% chance of survival. Doctors soon diagnosed that a 74-year-old was infected with a flesh-eating disease known as Buruli ulcer, which inflicts permanent damage to the skin and soft tissue. It is capable of killing an infected person within 24 hours if left untreated. New research published in January suggested that mosquitoes and possums played a role in transmitting the infection. The disease sparked great concern in Australia in recent years, with the state of Victoria alone having recorded 363 Buruli ulcer cases since 2004, the highest on record. Reporting, this has been Trisha Molina, SMNI News.
When we come back, amid ongoing tensions in the West Philippine Sea, a local chief executive in the Philippines calls for cooler heads and bilateral negotiations. With setbacks in talks between China and the Philippines and President Marcos leaning towards U.S. power, the veteran politician urges world leaders to seek a middle ground for resolution. And U.S. officials are on high alert as a fleet of Russian warships edges closer to the Caribbean for the anticipated military exercises. More news after the break.
Pastor Apollo Kibuloy.
Kibuloy is a threat to peace and order in the country.
Father, you have ordained leaders for the development, prosperity of our country, no matter what. The scriptures are very clear. And the scriptures tells us to put them up in supplications and prayers, that they may do the right thing, that they may guide our nation towards peace and development and prosperity.
Before I become extinct, I'd like to say to you, talagang you are the son of God.
Anything that tries your faith and puts you on the spot of deciding whether to continue or to stop is a fire. Whether it is persecution, whether it is loved ones, family, anything that will try your faith, whether to continue or to stop or to overcome or draw back, it is called fire. Now, salvation is based upon our building up on the foundation. Whether silver, gold, stubble, precious stones, that means if it is gold, then it's genuine. It can go through the fire, but it will stay. When your confession of commitment and dedication is not true, when the fire goes through you, you will be burned. That's why I love my ministry. Because all of those that are able to overcome are certified 100% pure gold. Pure gold. Hypocrites have no place in the kingdom nation. Pretenders have no place in the kingdom nation. Plastics don't have place in the kingdom nation. Why? Because before we can be ushered into the new world, we should be tried by fire.
Banateros tuwing Lunes hanggang Huwebes, live dito lang sa SMNI.
Yan ang Banateros, walang inuurungan. Pag tama palakpakan, pag mali ay babanatan. Yan ang Banateros.
Magandang umaga Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Maayong buntag mga kapartner. Magandang araw sa buong mundo.
Magandang araw, Pilipinas! Ito ang Pulso ng Bayan.
Hihimayin ang mga pangunahing issue sa ating bayan. Susuriin ang mga kinakailangang malaman ng taong bayan. Aalamin ang pulso ng bawat Pilipino sa mga pangyayari sa ating lipunan. Pulso ng Bayan, alas 7 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga, tuwing Lunes hanggang Biyernes. Kasama ang spokes ng Bayan, Attorney Harry Roque, Admar Vilando at Jade Calabroso. Dito lang sa SMNI.
Children will grow up and bring the joy, the love, the peace, and compassion to the whole world. We only have one planet. We only have one Earth. And I hope that this new generation of children that we have reached out will become millions and billions and bring peace on Earth. Bring peace to humanity. In the spiritual, you don't have to have a doll in order to become a witch. When you psychologically hurt someone, you are a witch. You know how a witch is hurt spiritually? A cold shoulder, mental abuse, physical abuse is witchcraft. Soul winners are not like that. Soul winners are winning souls through love,
peace and joy, meekness, gentleness, goodness, kindness. Whether you are on the first, second, or third level of spiritual growth, we are all participating in the same body. We have a care for everyone in the body. Whether you are part of the feet, which is the lowest of all, whether you are in the hand, or whether what part you are, one to another, there is participation of love. That's why Jesus Christ said, love one another, that the world may know you are my disciples.
Na si Apollo Kibuloy. Pastor Apollo Kibuloy.
Kibuloy is a threat to peace and order in the country.
Father, you have ordained leaders for the development, prosperity of our country, no matter what. The scriptures are very clear. And the scriptures tells us to put them up in supplications and prayers, that they may do the right thing, that they may guide our nation towards peace and development and prosperity.
Before I become extinct, I'd like to say to you, talagang you are the son of God. How to receive God's favor. So, for us, in order to receive the favor of God, we must avoid a holier than thou attitude. Importante sa harap ng ating Panginoon na tayo ay may kababaan ng loob na huwag nating tingnan at mapagmataas tayo sa ating mga sarili. Isaiah chapter 57 verse 15. For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place, with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite ones. Bilang mga anak ng Diyos na tunay, upang tayo ay kasihan ng kanyang pabor, kailangan tayo ay hindi lamang mapagpakumbaba, kundi tayo ay mapagpatawad. If you want to seek the favor of God, be forgiving in your heart, so that when you pray and lift up holy hands to heaven, the Lord of heaven will also forgive your trespasses. May pabor ka na sa Diyos pagka ikaw ay dumadalangin na pinatawad mo ang kasalanan ng iba. In order to receive the favor of God, we must be humble. We must be forgiving. And we should not judge. And then, if you want to have favor with God, you must love God and obey God's words at all times. Ang aklat na ito ng kautusan ay huwag mahihiwalay sa iyong bibig, kundi iyong pagbubulayan araw at gabi upang iyong masunod na gawin ang ayon sa lahat na nakasulat dito, sapagkat kung magkagayoy iyong pagiginhawain ang iyong lakad, at kung magkagayoy magtatamo ka ng mabuting kawakasan. Magkakaroon ka ng pabor sa harap ng ating Panginoon. Mahalin ang kanyang mga banal na salita, ipamuhay ang kanyang banal na salita, sundin ang kanyang banal na salita, huwag hihiwalay ang kanyang banal na salita sa ating bibig araw at gabi. Pagbubulayan natin yan araw at gabi bago kayo magtrabaho sa umaga, pagkagising ninyo, kumuha muna kayo ng mga salita ng Diyos, magbasa kayo, mag-devotional kayo, basahin ang salita ng Diyos, mahalin ang salita ng Diyos. Huwag ilagay ang Biblia at patungan ng anumang klaseng libro. Kailangan yan ay nasa ibabaw ng lahat ng libro.
An embattled local chief executive has spoken on issues concerning the Philippines, the U.S., and China in the West Philippine Sea rift. MJ Monderha tells us more.
And we have always been anti-war, and we have always been anti-foreign forces.
This has been the message of the embattled Cagayan Governor Manuel Mamba, as his province is now on the edge of an impending war in the disputed territories in the West Philippine Sea. Cagayan Province hosts two EDCA sites of the U.S., mainly in the Lalo Airport and Naval Base in Camilo Osayas in Santa Ana. With the ongoing tensions in the disputed territories, with the U.S. backing the Philippines, Mamba hopes for cooler heads between our leaders and foreign counterparts.
Well, we're still praying, no, that we could always search for a common ground, no, on all the disagreements that we have, no.
Mamba's province sits on the northern side of the Philippines, the side that faces Taiwan. Chinese President Xi Jinping said that meddling in their issues with Taiwan will change everything in the disputed territories. The Taiwan government now allies with the U.S., with the U.S. placing its firepower in the Philippines, some in Cagayan Province. Mamba said that bilateral negotiations are still the hope for the tensions to go down.
There's always hope and chance, no? Napakadali. From the very outset, no, our neighbors have always been asking for bilateral talks. And I was part of the Aquino administration. We talked lengthily about this. And that is why I'm still hoping that bilateral talks and with the continuous dialogue, no, we could still foster and seek a middle ground for countries that has disputes.
With setbacks in the negotiations between China and the Philippines, and with President Marcos leaning more toward U.S. power, the veteran politician said that world leaders should seek a middle ground to resolve issues.
Any neighbor and any country, husband and wives even quarrel, but they do not kill each other. No? They always seek for a middle ground. And ito po yung hinahanap-hanap din po namin so that we could have peace, progress.
Mamba is a known critic of the spreading of EDCA sites during the Marcos administration. As such, he paid a price of expressing dissent as the current regime disqualified him as Cagayan governor for violation of the election spending ban. Mamba has availed of legal remedies to contest the Comelec order. Nevertheless, Mamba said that the interests of the Filipino people must prevail, and that interest could not be found through war.
Well, leaders should be doing that, no? Sitting, chatting, and making friends, no? And I think cooler heads, no, will come.
Mamba is an awardee of the APCO 2024, an event he said that must continue to forge good relationships between China and the Philippines. For the Philippines, MJ Monderha, SMNI News.
Meanwhile, the Department of Transportation reports that fares for the LRT-1 Cavite extension are cheaper compared to jeepneys and buses. Phase 1 of the project is almost 100% complete and is set to open an additional 5 stations in the fourth quarter of 2024. Let's hear more from Sigrid Castañeda.
The Department of Transportation inspected a Dr. Santos station of the LRT-1 Cavite Extension Phase 1 project. The overall progress rate of the project stands at 98.2%. The extension includes 5 stations, several of which are nearly 100% complete. Two of these stations will be connected to NAIA and PTEX. Partial operation is expected to commence in the last quarter of 2024. The facility is estimated to accommodate up to 50,000 passengers upon opening. Officials claim the project will significantly elevate traffic congestion in Metro Manila.
With 50,000 passengers passing through this, mababawasan yung sasakay sa private cars and other public utility vehicles. So that will really contribute to solving some of the traffic problems.
We're hoping to double that. In terms of forecast, we think it's going to double to 80 to 100,000. So definitely that would somehow impact directly and indirectly traffic.
This will be a duplicate with the PTEX. Ganun mangyayari po ito. Well coordinated the city, we will put up an intermodal here. So kumplituhin po natin para in and out from this station would be easier.
The key question many have is the fare rates.
Currently, we will be applying the same fare, which is 13.29 boarding fare. And for distance fare, kumbaga bawat kilometro in malalakbay, it's 1 peso and 21 centavos additional.
For example, a trip from Baclaran to Dr. Santos Station would cost approximately 25 pesos, while a journey from FPJ Station to Dr. Santos would be around 45 pesos.
This is even cheaper than the existing fare for buses and jeepneys.
Construction of the LRT-1 Cavite Extension Phase 1 began in September 2019 under the administration of former President Rodrigo Duterte. Preliminary works for Phase 2 and Phase 3 have already started, with the entire project expected to be completed by 2031. Travel time from Baclaran to Bacoor will be reduced from 1 hour and 10 minutes to 25 minutes. This has been Sigrid Castañeda reporting, your global citizens correspondent for God and my beloved country, the Philippines.
In the meantime, on Thursday, leaders of the U.S. Congress confirmed that Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be addressing lawmakers in America in a joint session on the 24th of July in Capitol Hill. This comes amid calls for Israel and Hamas to have permanent ceasefire due to the worsening tensions between the two sides. Meanwhile, United Nations officials on Thursday condemned Israel's deadly attack targeting a school housing displaced people in the Nusrat camp in the central Gaza Strip, which is hosting roughly 6,000 people displaced by the Israeli bombardments on the Palestinian enclave. During a news conference on the day, Monica Grady, spokesperson of UN General Assembly President Dennis Francis, said Francis condemned this attack as he has condemned all previous attacks on civilians on infrastructure.
The President condemns this attack, as he has condemned all previous attacks on civilians, on infrastructure.
Whatever word you want to use.
Meanwhile, Stefan Dujarric, spokesman for UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, also spoke out against the attack at this news conference.
It is being used by UNRWA to shelter people and provide some basic services. This is just yet another tragic, horrific, whatever word you want to use, of the price that civilians are paying in Gaza for this conflict. What I can tell you is that a large number of civilians were killed, a number of children were killed as well.
Singapore witnessed rising cases of people seeking to address aerophobia or fear of flying. This came after a Singaporean Airlines flight encountered massive turbulence that killed one passenger and injured dozens more last month. Anisa de Guzman has the report.
Tragic memories of an airline accident concerning Singaporean Airlines flight SQ321 that happened more than 2 weeks ago remain fresh as therapists encounter more patients trying to overcome their fear of flying. The aftermath of the incident last month came to light after service providers revealed that more people are seeking treatment for aerophobia. Cases range from slight uneasiness to very severe panic attacks that are triggered by mere thoughts of flying or by an impending travel on air. On the 21st of May, extreme turbulence hit Singaporean Airlines flight SQ321 while flying 37,000 feet up mid-air from London to Singapore. The aircraft, which was transporting 211 passengers and 18 crew members on board, was diverted to Bangkok. The extreme turbulence caused the plane to drop more than 6,000 feet in 3 minutes, slamming passengers against the ceiling. The incident killed a 73-year-old British passenger and injured more than 80 others. Despite the controversy that rocked Singapore's national airline, the Southeast Asian nation retained a top spot as the country with the strongest passport for 4 consecutive months. Singaporean passport holders can enter 168 countries visa-free. Meanwhile, 159 countries allow Singaporean nationals to enter their border without visa requirements. Singapore, a country of more than 5.6 million people, aims to lure 15 million to 16.5 million tourists and generate up to 29 billion Singaporean dollars in tourism revenue by the end of 2024. Japan held the top spot for the most powerful passport in the last 5 years until Singapore dethroned the East Asian nation in 2023. Reporting from Thailand, I'm Anissa de Guzman, your global citizen correspondent for God and our beloved country, the Philippines.
U.S. officials are closely monitoring a group of Russian warships as they get closer to reaching Caribbean for military exercises. Tricia Molina is back with more news.
In a few more days, Russian warships will be present in the waters of the Caribbean and just a few miles away from the U.S. soil. 4 Russian ships, including a nuclear-powered submarine, will arrive in Cuba next week and will be docked in the capital Havana from the 12th through the 17th of June. The military exercises will take place amid intensified support by Western nations to Ukraine in the form of military and humanitarian aid. Several European nations like Germany and Sweden gave Ukraine the authority to use their weapons in its fight with Russia. The drills will mark Russia's first exercises in the Western Hemisphere in 5 years that will involve activities both in the air and sea. The Russian warships are also expected to make a port call in Venezuela after visiting Cuba. Reporting, this has been Tricia Molina, SMNI News.
In the meantime, the hunt for the January 8 fugitives in Brazil continues after a rally resulted in the destruction of historical monuments and objects. David Lira will provide further details.
On Thursday, Brazil's federal police conducted an operation to arrest fugitives involved in the January 8, 2023 riots, during which the supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro stormed the seats of power in Brasilia.
Brazilian authority announced that arrest warrants were issued in 19 states, including Brasilia. The event of January 8 saw thousands of radicalized far-right supporters of Bolsonaro vandalizing government buildings in Brasilia, protesting unsubstantiated claims of voter fraud in 2022 presidential election. Meanwhile, fugitives from the attacks sought refuge in Argentina, as revealed by the Lisa Patria operation. A new phase of the operation was also launched to arrest those involved and monitor the fugitives. There is a possibility that the fugitives may attempt to escape border control in various ways.
By Thursday afternoon, 50 fugitives had been arrested in the latest phase of Operation Lesa Patria. Police carry out over 200 judicial measures issued by the Supreme Federal Court in 18 states and the Federal District, including detentions and the installation of electronic ankle. I'm David Lira, your global citizen correspondent for SMNI News.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the Sun. Whatever is right, that is where we should always side with. And that's all for this edition For more news update, you may visit smnichannel.com or follow us in our official social media accounts on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. For God and Country, the Philippines, I'm Frederico Velloso, and this is Newsline World.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
Subscribe to SMNI News Channel and turn on the notification bell to keep you up to date. Also visit our official social media accounts and join our community on Viber and Telegram.